dear colleagues, it's a real pleasure to see such a crowd here. 4 years ago, we had a very big crowd here, and I thought we are never going to have it bigger. Well, I was wrong, and I'm very pleased to be so. In my closing remarks, I will not reflect so much on the scientific papers which have been shown here, but I wanted to make a couple of other comments. And let me start with an extraction from a book which a German writer wrote about Carlton. Carlton was a USDA researcher who has introduced stem rust resistance from the Crimean. And he has done this because there have been such tremendous epidemics in the 1890s. And the book goes like this. Then came the rust, the stem rust, the death of wheat. It flies from farm to farm, sucks the sap out of the stem, the grains out of the spikes. In the summer of 1897, out of the 1,000 fields, only 100 were alive. Bad autumn for farmers, no food for children and cattle, exasperated women, hard years, poverty. They had worked in the sweat of their brows, but they had no bread. That was from Gottfried Benn, and I think Norman Borlaug himself later on, 40 years, saw the consequences of rust again. So the world was alerted when UG99 came because we know what it can do. And now I want to read another quote, and that goes like this. Stem rust, a devastating weed disease that has been under control since the mid-50s, has infected experimental weeds in the highland of Uganda in East Africa, and potentially threatens wheat production elsewhere in the world. We wish to put wheat farmers and researchers all over the world on alert. Stem rust is a deadly disease which is if left unchecked, could totally destroy farmers, harvests in wheat-producing regions all over the world. If the new biotype were to reach regions around the world that are at risk, it could provoke epidemics such as farmers have not encountered in many years. That was the press release which CIMMYT had sent to wheat stakeholders in October 1999 to the wheat research and in particular to the wheat stakeholders. And the response was basically none. It really needed Norman Borlaug, this giant, to raise his concern and use his influence. When he came to Kenya in 2005, and he saw that more than 90% of CIMMYT lines in international nurseries were susceptible to stem rust, I think he was truly shocked, and he used all the influence he had to make the world act. And I can say the world responded, and I think the world responded dramatically. Funds were made available for immediate action by many donors from developed and developing countries, funds for research, monitoring, fast-track seed multiplication of resistant varieties. And the next step then was the establishment of the Durable Rust-Resistant Wheat Program, which is led by Cornell. And I think in many aspects, this is a model of what can be achieved. A well-coordinated effort that includes the leading rust specialists. Aside the technical impact, and this conference and the previous conferences have shown how much progress has been made, another important achievement is that all the results are open shared, and I think this is still one of the tremendous strengths of the global wheat research community, that we are not closed, that most of us are willing to share results, information, genes, new technology, and make it to others available so they can build on it and make far faster progress. Today, and that is the communication channels, news on rust basically go around the globe in hours. Well, maybe sometimes it takes days, but it really travels extremely fast, and the communication channels which have been built up and are established are also tremendous. The websites on rust tracking, etc., I think it really is a model on what needs to be possibly applied for other diseases as well. I'm also very impressed by the latest results which have been shown here on the progress of making cassettes. Maybe they become a reality in the near future. That's what wheat breeders and scientists, wheat trust people talk for the last, well, I mean, at least since I'm in wheat business, and it's only about 32 years, people talk about this, but it's not a reality, but it looks it can become one. Then also, the donor investment in the durable rust-resistant wheat from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and DFID is significant. And if you compare it with other wheat projects, very significant. And I also think the project has delivered. Many varieties are released, monitoring systems are in place, analysis, global understanding of rust populations, seed, and training. And on training, I want to make a particular point here. I think 8, 9, 10 years ago now, possibly less than 10 serious stem rust researchers were around in the world. Think about it. Stem rust was the most important disease until the 50s. 40 years later, there were hardly any people around. And then you look today into this room. How many people have made their PhD and masters in stem rust? How many are now working again in rust? I think this is a tremendous achievement, and much of it goes back to the initiative of the durable rust-resistant wheat and also the Global Rust Initiative. So, everything under control, well, I wouldn't sign that, definitely not. I mean, we just heard about the stem rust in Ethiopia. Yellow rust is doing on a global scale very much damage. Stem rust has local outbreaks, and it's the global threat, but yellow rust causes millions and hundreds of millions of dollars losses, in particular in Africa and Asia. And that needs to be much more attention. And in 4 weeks, I guess I see many of you again in Turkey when ICARA and Turkey organized the second yellow rust conference in Izmir. And there then the focus will be on yellow rust, and that also definitely needs much more investment. The durable rust-resistant wheat has now over the last 8 years put together an excellent model on how to tackle a major threat to global food security. And I really hope that the investors, and that's not only the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and DFID, but also others continue. Because the old saying is, whenever we started to learn how to work together and to deliver, we were reorganized. And I don't want to see the durable rust-resistant wheat reorganized, since it functions so well and serves the world community so well. Significant investments have been made and are made over the last 8 years in many countries. Denmark became a reference center. Minnesota became the Borlaug Center. Turkey, ICARA, India, Pakistan, Kenya, Ethiopia, and I'm sure I have forgotten many countries. Today, the world is in a much better position to deal with rust epidemics and outbreaks than it was 8 years ago, but definitely it is not where we really should be. Seed systems are still not as efficient as they should. Variety replacement remains a major issue. More varieties which are genetically diverse need to be released and made available to farmers. And also, in order to make adult plant resistance a reality, many more markers need to be made available to breeders. Norman Borlaug came to Mexico because of rust. And that's also where he finished his lifetime achievements with the launch of the BGRI in 2009. And I'm sure he would be very proud of what all of you have achieved since then. And on behalf of all participants here, I would like to thank Ronnie and his team from the BGRI at Cornell for this excellent workshop, for the continuous support and the advocacy for rust, and of course, the Borlaug Global Rust Initiative, and here, Casey Khan and DFID for the significant investments in rust. I also believe that the rust community really responded and delivered very well, and as I said, I don't hope we will be reorganized because of lack of investments in this. Thank you very much.